It's time to write our own mods data generator classes and get done with data generators. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. We will continue where we stopped in the last video, writing down our main classes, and we got to the point that we have to write our data gen classes. Now the very first one, mod block tag provider. It sits inside data gen directly. Okay, so here a new Java class, call it mod tag provider, mod block tag provider. It extends. Now implements means that we are using interfaces. Extends means that we are extending a class. If you don't know what is object-oriented programming and inheritance, there are video tutorials about these theories you can watch. And if you don't know how to implement them using Java, again, we have a Java series that you can watch. So it extends the fabric tag provider. Now here is a trick. If I hit FTP, just the capital letters, fabric tag provider, you notice that F, T and P words are highlighted with white. Means that I am guiding the IntelliSense for using these words, and this is a shortcut. Most cases it works. So instead of, right now it says fabric model provider, instead of typing fabric and then going for tag until it understands what I want, I can say fabric tag provider and it says fabric tag provider to me, and that's that. Dot block tag provider, again block tag provider. And now it says to implement methods, and we want to implement the only method it needs, and again we are ready. Okay, what do you want now? It says create constructor. Well, we create the constructor and finally we are ready. Now the constructor is something really simple. It's just calling super. When you are inheriting from another class, super is referring to this higher hierarchy parent class. Okay, we either call it parent or super. In programming, we write super. So it will go and call its parent and instantiate it, basically. Let's talk about the params here. Well, the output is the fabric data output. It says it. So it's just the output file. A completable feature of type registry wrapper lookup. If you keep your mouse on top of it, it says it's an interface. Now, it doesn't give me that much information. So if I go to declaration or usage, now is the time that we can take a look at what it is going. It's a read-only wrapper of a registry. A wrapper is something that unboxes an object, in this case a registry. And by unboxing, I mean somewhere inside of it, it will handle a registry. So you see it's accepting a stream of registry entries of the reference type of this generic that we are sending in. So it says returns a stream of registry keys defined in the wrapper registry. Returns the same thing. Okay, so here what we are saying that, hey, we want a future that may be explicitly completed, setting its value and the status, and may be used as a completion stage, supporting dependent functions and actions that trigger upon its completion. Who understands it? I don't know. When two or more threads attempt to complete or cancel a feature, only one of them succeeds. In addition to these or related methods for directly manipulating status and results, it implements an interface with the following policies. Action supplied, all async, all methods are implemented independently, all stages methods returns the future. So you can sit back and read this Java doc. Long story short, it is providing a class that is able to do things in parallel, and in parallel I don't mean multi-threading. No, in parallel with other mods. So if another mod is writing the same tag, it won't cause any issues. It won't crash the game. It says that, okay, both of you are writing the same tag name. I have no problem creating that tag name, and then I will come back and assign both of your stuff inside that tag name, because when you think about it, I may have a tag name, I don't know, call it gems, and then someone else may use the same tag name, gems. I'm assigning my items into the gems and he's assigning his items into the gems. Now, when the mod loader is starting the game, he immediately sees that two different mods are creating gems tag. That's the parallel section for you. So it won't cause a crash there. It will understand it and says, okay, I have a future, completable future. So I complete one and ignore the second one. That is creating the gems tag. So it creates the gems tag and it continues on and says, okay, now we have things to add to it by two mods. It will add both of mods items into the gems list. This section is all about that. And it says that, hey, please, Mr. Provider, be kind enough and handle it yourself. Almost every tutorial out there jumps from this because they don't understand it. And they say it's what it is, just create the constructor and move to the configure. Okay, what is this? If you ask them, they can't tell you. Now that we understand that, we can continue on. So, as you see, it looks for another wrapper. It's a lookup wrapper and calls arg. However, we will completely ignore this wrapper. We have nothing to do with this wrapper ourselves. We just call an internal method of this block tag provider, and that is get or create tag builder. So here we are saying that, hey, we want to create or get a tag. So if you have created the tag beforehand, I'm okay with that. So get it. If we don't have that tag, create it, please. And here we have different tags. Now remember, we had those tags inside our reference. So we can say references dot mod tags dot blocks dot any tag we have here. However, right now it's empty. On the other hand, there are tags provided by Minecraft and we have to add things to that. For example, we are inside block tags. So block tags from Minecraft registry tags dot, and here we can say pickaxe mineable. That's one of the tags that we always want to have because we may have ores and those ores should be picked up by pickaxes and we have to add them to this tag here one after another. However, this is an empty mod template right now, so we just put a semicolon at the end and it will compile and run without any issues. Another one of these is, again, needs stone tools, means that the thing that we are adding to this tag will be broken by stone tools, stone pickaxe. It doesn't need any higher up tiers. Same for iron tools. Another one for diamond tools. Now, what if we want tags for enderite tools? Now, it is handled a little bit differently. Here we will say get or create, but instead of tags, we will say tag key dot of. Now, this means that, hey, I'm providing a tag key for you. And remember, if you go on pickaxe mineable, for example, you see that it's a tag key itself. So one way or another, we are handling tag keys, and tag keys are just, if you look, it's a tag key of type T. You can dive down, but at the end you will see that we are assigning some strings to them. So here we are saying that, hey, I don't have it in any category, but I know the name. So please go into the registry keys and find blocks for me because, well, we are dealing with block. Then we want to have a new identifier. Pay attention, I'm not using the identifier provided by my reference because here the namespace changes. We want another namespace, and the namespace is fabric. The name is the thing that defines netherite, and that's needs, pay attention to the plural, tool level 4. This means netherite. If you want any tier above netherite, you can add it here and change the number at the end. We will talk about it later, but this is netherite, so netherite, and that's a comment for you, by the way. Okay, the next thing that is being provided by Minecraft is block tags dot logs that burn. This means wood, basically any type of wood log is being added here. There are other things that is there and we can add. For example, we say walls. So if we have our own walls, fences and fence gates. What about stairs? Do we have stairs, doors, and the list goes on, dirt or whatever you want. Also, we have another tier of it, and that is for the ores. So we have copper ores. So if we have our own coppers, we can do that. Redstone, the other one is lapis, iron, diamond, gold, and the funny one, coal. So basically, you have tags for almost all the blocks. There are few exceptions, but you have tags for everything. And if you are adding your own stairs, your own doors, your own fence gates, fences, walls, anything else, you can add them here. Or if you have your own ores, for example, some mods provide iron ores for nether. Or if you want to put it in the end, you can do it. Or in your custom dimensions, and they are still iron ores. So you will add them here, okay? And the list goes on. As I said, you can have a look at this block tags, just hit dot, and you will see everything. For example, logs means any log, okay? Logs that burn means those logs that can be used as fuel, okay, inside furnace. So dot, the other things that you may want to look are shovel mineable, axe mineable, all signs, all hanging signs, banners, beds, beacon base blocks, beehives, buttons, climbables, and then crops, dirt. The list goes on and on and on. So if you want to put something inside the tag for Minecraft, I highly recommend that you should sit back and look at this list one after another until you see what you want to do. So I'm not gonna keep everything like this. I just remove these. I just wanted to show you that they are there if you want to, if you need to. However, logs that burn, ores and tools and minables, those are the things that you will use most of the time. So this is the tag provider for the blocks, and that's it. The next one is the item tag provider, and thankfully item tag provider is almost identical to this one. Mod block tag provider. Okay, provider, do refactor, and why are you not showing up here? There we go. Okay, before going forward, fix the typos there. There we go. So mod item tag provider class, and again it's as simple as saying, hey, fabric tag provider extends fabric tag providers dot item tag provider, and again it says that implement methods, and it says that implement constructor. Now constructor, choose the first one, and again it's that's not what we want, so I will delete this one. Constructor matching super, we want the one that accepts the wrapper lookup without the block tag provider. Okay, so just the data output and this one, and that's it. So the same deal that we talked about the block is happening here. So I will move forward and take a look at what we have here that we can use. So again, get or create tag builder, item tags. As I said, whenever you want to work with Minecraft, take a look around. Most of the time, you will find what you want. Axes. We want to have hoes. We want to have pickaxes. We want to have shovels. We want to have swords. The next one is the interesting one. We want to have trimmable armor. Now, anything that you add here as an armor automatically will generate all those 10 JSON files for that armor as a trimmable armor. As simple as that, isn't it? For example, a single dot add this item will make 10 JSON files for you. So the next ones is again items for the ores. So we can have copper ores, we will have redstones, we don't have actually, we will not cover these in the tutorials, but you can have them. So redstone, lapis, iron, diamond, and coal. And of course, somewhere in there is gold. Now, pay attention. Coal, ores. And basically, again, you can look at this items tag and see what you have here. So other than these, you have stone crafting materials. This is a good one to have. Dot. Stone tool materials. Good. Dot. Now, if you want to have your own wool or emerald ores, you can have this one. And when you see that there is an emerald ores here, chances are that you will have an emeralds ore here. So emerald ores, yes. The next one that may be useful, let's take a look. If you want your own beds, boats, buttons, and the list goes on and on again, okay? But until now, the main things are tools if you want to. Okay, these are the most useful ones. Again, you can look back and find things, but as I said, adding a single line of code, like we will look at it later, dot add mod items dot something, for example, iron helmet, okay? That will cause the iron helmet to be trimmable in the game. Just by that, you create 10 JSON files. So the next one in the list of data gens, and again, it's not showing up, I'm not sure why, just remove the last R and retype it. So entity tag provider, again, it's almost identical to the last two ones because again, it's a tag provider. So it extends the fabric tag provider dot entity type tag provider, implement methods, create constructor matching super, and that's it. Now here, let's see if we have anything for entity tags, entity type tags dot. And here you see arrows. So if you want your own arrows or your own type of mods, so zombies, undead, skeletons, raiders, but honestly, normally you won't use them as they are. Here, you will have your own entity types and your own tags, okay? For example, if you want some mobs to ignore something, well, you can hard code that inside your code, but you can add them here so that you have a tag for them. And then this will help mod pack developers to change that JSON in their mod packs and handle things they need. We will take a look at this actually later, but keep in mind this is responsible of adding your own tags into the game for entities. And again, it's not finding that. There we go. So mod loot tables. Let's create it, and it extends the fabric block loot table provider. You see how I find it? Easily. And implement methods degenerate, that's what we want, constructor matching super. Now, this time, if you look, we just use a fabric data output. And this extends data output to keep track of the mod container that it originated from. The data output is a class, and you can go into the declarations and then go into this declaration and see what is going on here. So it asks for a path, it resolves the path, and this time path should be the identifier path. And that's it, basically. It's all about the path for the identifier. And then it says if we want to get the container, it returns the mod container for the mod that this data generator has been created for. Okay, interestingly enough, we just understood what it is doing. It says that, hey, data generator system, remember, this class is for this mod and register it, basically. That's this constructor is doing. And notice that this time the constructor is generated being protected. Now this will cause an issue without even going into the code. If we come back and make it again correct with reading this, you will see that we have an error. Basically, it says that, hey, this has protected access in the constructor. Make the constructor public, and that is something that you should pay attention when you are automatically generating your constructors. So making it public gets that error gone and it will work. However, we are having things to do inside here. Okay, this is responsible of adding our loot tables, and for this, I will have two different helper methods. I keep them public because it is actually from the inheritance. So custom, this is not inherited, but I will keep them public. Public loot table dot builder. So we are returning a builder here so that we can chain them if we want to, the calls actually. So we say custom or drops. Here I want to add a custom or drops, but how can I find the original or drops? We say add, and you see that we have different things here, and one of them is add drop. If I middle mouse click on add drop, it's equivalent to say go to declaration. So I will middle mouse click on it, and it says where to look for, and I say block loot table generator, and here we see that we have different things inside this class. And if I say Control F to find, and I will type or, we see that copper or drops or lapis or drops. Let's open these two and let's compare these two. Drop with silk touch. Drop loot pool entry builder this, apply explosion decay. Drop leaf entry builder, item entry builder, items, just the item is changed. Apply count builder, everything is unique and equivalent to each other than these two numbers and the item itself. If I copy one of them and if I come back to here, so this is how you will copy from vanilla and change it basically. And basically we don't need this. Now we don't have the drop. The drop is a block type. So we say block and we call it drop. That's the first error gone. Now let's see what is going on here. I will break it down until I can read it and then I will explain it to you. Builder.apply. Yeah, it's crazy, I know. And this is chaining the commands for you. Okay, there you have it. Okay, what's going on here? Let's start with stabbing things here. First of all, I don't want this hard-coded copper. I want my own item. So I have to provide it. Item, item. Then I have to provide two floats as min and as max. Okay, I will provide them. So float min, float max. Okay, the method is completed, but what is going on here? It's a very crazy method. First of all, this is called chaining commands, and this is exactly why we are returning the builder and not void, because we want to be able to chain commands if we want to. Now let's take a look at this step by step. First things first, we are calling the block loot table generator because we want to be able to, well, register something. And they say, hey, drops with silk touch means that it can drop differently when we use silk touch. If we are not using silk touch, well, we are dropping something else. But if we are dropping with silk touch, okay, drop the same thing and don't go for the rest. However, if we are dropping other things, this is the drop item that should break. So if we are using silk touch, drop the block item itself. If not, we want to drop another item with this minimum value and this maximum value. However, how to do that? Well, we are calling this. It means the same class, our loot table provider. That extends from fabric block loot table provider. Then we get apply explosion decay, the method from it. Okay. Now apply explosion decay returns a generic type that extends from loot function consuming builder. That it's again another generic, the same type. So it's a generic type. Without casting that generic type to anything, we are not sure what we are dealing with. And notice that the second param is asking for a builder of any type. So this code all the way to here is returning a generic type. We typecast that generic type to be a loot pull entry builder because this second parameter of the drops asks for builder. Okay, so far so good. So we are getting the explosion decay as the builder. However, this guy asks for two params, the drop and a builder itself. Now drop is the same block. The builder is different this time. We want the item entries builder. And again, we have to typecast it to leaf entry builder. And leaf entry builder is a builder that is related to the leaves of the JSON file. So it's not the leaf in the game, no. So calling the builder, we say, hey, we want this item because remember we are dropping the item. And when we get the builder, instead of immediately returning out, we are chaining some commands on that. We say, hey, apply few things for us. First, set count for us on the loot for the builder with uniform number provider. It means that we are providing uniform random number. The random number should happen between this minimum and this maximum. So first of all, reading these is better to go from inside out. So first of all, we are providing a random number, a unified random number between the minimum and the maximum. We are assigning it to a builder for setting the loot function count. And then we find that count, we apply it to the item builder. We assign this builder for the explosion decay command on the main builder of the block loot table. Basically, this whole thing is making a random number of one item to drop when you break this block without a silk touch. Finally, we can say, hey, apply. Apply what? Bonus loot function. Okay, we may have a bonus. And that happens when you are using fortune enchantment on ores. So basically, normally we would have, for example, between 3 to 5 coal. But if you are using fortune, by default we have a fortune mechanics for adding extra drops, and we are using it like that. So all I did was just find the original method, copy it, paste it, and then remove the hard-coded values and change them. But I had to understand what is going on under the hood. The next one is again a public loot table dot builder, and we call it custom or drops, but this time we are just providing the block as drop and item as item. So this is overriding our own method. We return the custom or drops with the drop with the item, but here we are hard coding two values, 2.0f and 5.0f. So by default, if I call custom or drops with the block and item, I'm saying that, hey, I want drops between 2 and 5 count. If I want to choose a different number, I can directly call that on top in the generate as so. Okay, this was one of the most complex achievements so far, but get used to it because lots of the time you will refer to the vanilla code and find different methods, copy them and tweak them. Now looking back at this public, I'm not happy with keeping it public because when it comes to API and method calls, accessibility is important. You don't want to get access to these outside of this generate method. Okay, coming back to data generator, model provider. Now model provider is not as crazy as loot table provider, but is a little bit busy because it has two different methods. First of all, it needs to extend fabric model provider. And again, we need implement methods and we need to create the constructor matching super. Again, it says the output, data output, so it's just registering us as the output of the data generator. Here, we are not doing anything else. I said it's a little bit busy as not as crazy because we have two different methods, one for blocks, one for items. And down the road, when you are adding your own blocks, different blocks use different methods here. Keep in mind, sometimes the data generator is not as powerful as you need for different types of items. At those times, you will go back, find a JSON, copy it, and paste it under the block states and other places. That is why you still have this hierarchy, okay? That's the model provider for you. As I said, loot tables are always the craziest one. So recipe provider, let's go into the recipe provider. New Java class, recipe provider. It extends fabric recipe provider. And again, implement methods and constructor. The constructor is again that data output. Now here is where you will add your own recipes, being it shaped, shapeless, cooking, smelting. We will come back to them later, not right now. That's that. Now it works. Okay, mod word generator. This one extends fabric dynamic registry provider and implement methods. It has two methods this time and a constructor matching super. This time it's again using this completable feature, so we understand it right now. Okay, good. The configure and the name. The name is easy. It says reference.mod ID, and I want to make it static just for that. And finally, we have to place our features here. So you notice that we have entries. These are entries for the registering. So we say entries.add. We want the registries because we already have access to it. Get wrapper or throw. So either we find the wrapper we are looking for or we throw an exception. The wrapper we want is registry keys dot configured features. And wait a minute, add all, my bad. So that's it. So what we are saying that, hey, find every configured features that we add, and when you get them, add all of them to the entries. This will cause generators generate those placed features because they are using bootstrap, remember? Duplicate it, and that is placed features, and that's that. So this is our mod word generator, and believe it or not, we will not come back to this class ever again, and it's just there. Okay, to continue, first of all, I forgot to fix this guy. As I said, copy paste is the ban of every programmer. This should be placed features. Okay, now let's start with this mod configured features. These are related to Word, so add that class. This is mod configured features. Go back here and mod placed features. So that's that, and just one is should fix this and this. So we don't have bootstraps, that's okay. The next thing we want to have here is something that we added all the way back inside our main, and that is mod word generation. Let's start with this one because it's an easier one. We just have a constructor. In the constructors, we just throw new assertion error, and then we have public, static, void, and what did we call it here? Register. Okay, register, and here we say reference.logger.info registering word generation, and finally here we say mod or generation.generate ors. Now that we know what we are doing here, we say registering or generation. Okay, now mod or generation, actually we should keep it at word, because if we want to create trees, that we will create trees later, it will happen here. But again, this mod or generation is another class that we want to have here. So that's that. And that's it, almost all of it. So let's start with mod configured feature. Mod configured feature has a constructor that again throws that exception. Now you may notice that the previous classes had constructors matching super. In that case, you can't do this throw because you should have constructors. Now we had a bootstrap, public static void bootstrap. Now bootstrap needs to register something. So it needs a registerable of something. That registerable is a configured feature. Now this configured feature, we don't know the type of those two. So we don't know the configured features. We can change it as we go forward, but we want to have it because down the line we will register it. So we say context. Here is where we will use that context and register it. However, to registering this context, we have a private static. FC is the generic number we say extends feature config, and this feature config has F that extends the feature of type FC, and that's it. That's our return type. So it may look confusing, isn't it? Remember, configured feature has two wildcards. Here, the first wildcard should be of type feature config. That's what we are saying here. The second one should be a feature of this one. So we are using that generic inside another generic, basically. All we are doing here is saying that, hey, we have a configure feature and we want a feature inside that configuration. Okay, and we want to register it. So we return void register. Now remember, this is not a return type. No, that's the definition of our generics, because here we will say a registerable of type configured feature. Now this configured feature again is unknown and unknown. We call it context. Here's the thing. We want a registry key of type. Now the type is again configured feature, the same, unknown, unknown. We call it key. Okay, so far we didn't use that F. We used FC inside this section, but where is the F? F is here. F feature and FC configuration. Now things start making sense. We are registering with a key and we are assigning some features into this configuration, putting these configurations with this key inside this registerable and then register it. That's all we are doing. Rewind, re-listen. We are putting some features inside some configurations. We are putting these configurations under a key inside a registerable object, and then we are registering that object. And we say that, hey, this registerable thing, now we want to register you. Okay, the key, we have it. The value is a new configured feature. Here is the feature and here is the configuration. So far so good. If it's a little bit confusing, go back and rewind and re-listen this whole section, because this is an extended use of, very complex use of generics, basically. We are using wildcards here so that we can send in any type or form, but when we are defining them here and here, then we are hooking everything together. So we are saying, hey, we have an object that is capable of being registered. That's the first parameter. And then we say, hey, we have a very unknown type of key. Well, we provide that type later, but hey, we have a key. Okay, we want to register something under this key inside this registerable. That's okay, but now we need to know the type of this feature and we need a feature configuration. The feature should be of this type because we want to put it in there. So we say that, hey, now we know the registerable object, we want to register and register this thing under this key inside this registerable. That's the whole thing. And this thing is a configured feature with this configuration. Down the line, you will see that it's not as complex as you think, because here we say that the feature is, for example, OR. Okay, so we are registering an OR. And the configuration is like, for example, this OR, in our case, for example, I don't know, lapis OR, and this is the size of the OR, and put it inside a key, okay? And that's it. So it looks confusing like that right now, but when you are dealing with OR generation or other things, it will make sense when we come back to this. Just keep it like this because, as I said, I want to have a very functional mod template, not just the simple one. Because later down the road, I will write my own template generator and I want it to have all of these features. So we will come back to that in the Java series actually. But right now we are stabbing our codes. So after the mod configuration, we have the placed feature. Now placed feature is almost identical, a little bit different. So it's again a class with a constructor of throwing. So throw new assertion error. We have a bootstrap, remember? So public static void bootstrap. Now the bootstrap is accepting a registerable where did I have a typo? Here, registerable of type placed feature. Now thankfully placed feature is not as complex as configuration. We call it context. And here we have few different helper methods actually. The very first one is this, private static registry key of type placed feature, and we call it register key with the string name. Okay, here we say return registry key dot of. If you don't know the meaning of, go back and watch the Java tutorial series. I explain it there. So we want the type. Here says registry keys dot place feature. That's our type. The value is the reference dot identifier of the name. And here I will put it as a static. So that's it. That's how we get the registry key and registry. Okay. So we just return the register key, you know, and I should rename it to get register key because that's more meaningful. Okay. Now we have private static void register. And when I think about it, actually this should be public because that's a helper method for getting a register key. Okay. So this one registrable and not there. Registerable of type placed feature, we call it context. The second param, registry entry of type configured feature, and this configured feature is unknown configuration. And the last one is a list Java utils, yes, of type placement modifiers. We call it modifiers. Now here's a funny part. Inside Forge you don't have ability to change these modifiers at all. You have to do it with JSON, not datagen. So context dot register the key we provided. No, I said key. Why did I miss it? I miss it because I forgot it here. So it's a registry key of type placed features and we call it key. Okay. The value is again a new placed feature. Now the registry entry is configuration and the modifiers is just the list dot copy of the modifiers we send in. So we're just making a copy of the modifiers list and we send it. That's that. And this is exactly the same concept of that configured features. Here we have a placed features as a registerable. We register a new placed feature under this key. The placed feature asks for the configuration. We already had the configurations and a list of modifiers. For example, which biome I can put this in and stuff like that. Which word, which biome, that's the modifiers for you. So here is a second way of registering your placed features. I will just copy paste it because we are changing only one parameter at the end. Instead of having a list, we are sending arbitrary numbers of modifiers. Then we will call ourselves with making a list of those elements, okay? And then sending it back there. That's the second one. We may use it, we may not use it, but it's nice to have a second way. And that's it basically. That's our placed features. So if I go back in DataGen, no errors whatsoever here. Finally, I can close this one. The mod word generation is working, so no errors there. I can close this one. And finally, let's go back and take a look. Tags, loot table, models, recipes, configured features, placed features. However, we have one thing to do. This or generation. So now or placement and or generation. Okay, let me see. We need a helper class class and it's related to datagen. Normally I would put it under utils if it was being used in the game, but because it's being used only for data generation, I will put it under the word itself here, and that is called mod or placement. Now mod or placement is not being used right now. When we are going to register our placed features, we will come back and call for it. So I want to stab it because it's one of those things that you will stab once in the code and that's it, and you will never come back to it. So again, it has a constructor that throws an assertion, so assertion error. We know about it already. Then we have public static a list we will return, and that's placement modifiers, and we call it modifiers. This asks for a placement modifier count modifier and a placement modifier of called height modifier. All it's doing is returning a list.of count modifier and squared placement modifier dot of. The third element is height modifier, and again a biome placement modifier dot of empty. So what does it do? It says that, hey, we are sending the count as a modifier. The placement can be whatever you want, but we want it to be on height that we are defining. It can be in any biome, so we are not defining any biome here. This is one of the biggest differences compared to Forge. In Forge, biome modifiers should set in JSONs. Okay, I will copy this one because we may want to copy it. The count actually this time is an integer and the height modifier is the same. Now we return, we call ourselves modifier of the count placement modifier dot of the count that we sent in and the height modifier. The next one is, let's copy this one because we are sending an int, but this time we sent in a chance and we are changing the name because remember, you can't have two methods with the same name with the same signature. The signature here is that we are returning a list of placement modifiers. We are accepting an int and then a placement modifier. The names are the same. So it doesn't care if we are changing the name of the param, it cares about the types. So we say modify modifiers with rarity, okay? And here we say, instead of count placement modifier, we say rarity filter placement modifier of chance. So basically we are saying that, hey, we want a random number being generated with this chance for the placement modifier, but we are defining the height. These are the three ones that we want to have. Now you notice that by having this, basically I'm returning a list of modifiers. So when it comes back to that class, we are aiming for this one, a list of modifiers, not a parameters. If I wanted to use parameters, I would directly send in these count modifier, then square placement of, the height modifier, and biome placement of. So as this with comma separated at the end of the method call, at the end of here. However, using this helper method, now we can combine all four and return it just by sending in two modifiers. That's the usage of this helper method. Okay, so last things last, mod or generation. Now mod or generation has a constructor that throws the assertion error, and it has a public static void, and I think I called it generate ors. Yeah, generate ors. Now generate ors right now is empty, but actually this is where we are adding the biome modifications to assign the features for the different OR generations. So this is where the heart of OR generation happens. For time being, it will be empty. And by that, basically we should have no errors in project, and we can right now test it actually. We will choose datagen and we hit play. Now we go into build. It checks the tasks. It says that, hey, you need to build your project. That's okay. So right now it's building the project. It's in that phase. Okay, that's why we tried it. We have this that says tasks note. This is not an error, it's notes. It says uses unchecked or unsafe operations, mod loot table provider. That's okay. That's okay. So if we go into run, it's still running and I don't see my, here we go. Initializing, registering items. We have it 2 times, so I forgot to change it somewhere. It should be in blocks. And then it says registering data generation features. So we entered into the data generators and process finished with execution code. And we got this generated data, fabric, Minecraft, and all the things. So we got tons of JSON files just by doing it. However, these JSON files have empty lists because we didn't add anything there. That's okay. All we did is now we know that, hey, we are providing different data with this call. So registering items, somewhere in here I had a duplicate. Let's fix that one. And it should be inside references. Mod blocks, registering items. This is blocks. And that's it. However, if you want to, you can keep that logger and come back to your data generators. Whenever you are calling the bootstrap, for example here, you can say that, hey, we are generating, and here is configured features data. Copy it. This is OR generation. So we say generating OR data, and inside here it's not being called. So placed features inside bootstrap. This is placed feature data. Word generation, we are registering the word generation. It's here. I will move it actually to the references because it's not just that. We will move it here. So then tags inside the configure, right on top, we say generate, and this is blocks. So block tag data. This is entity tag. This is item tag. This is loot tables. So under generate, we say generating loot table data. Model provider, generating block models, block model data, generating item model data, generating recipe data, and finally here, this will call the configuration. So that's it. Okay. So if we call the data gen again and we clear this, I will let it run and I will come back when it's finished. Okay, it's finished its job. Let's drag it up and take a look. Now, you see that we have this initialization, registering items, blocks, item groups, commands, etc. But then we start generating the data. We are registering the data generation features, generating the placed features, generating configured features, generating block tag data. So this is where we start generating the block tags. It takes half a second. Then generating item tags, 4 milliseconds. Generating entity tags, well, empty. Generating loot tables, then generating block model data, item model data, generating recipe data, and that's it. By having these hierarchy of method calling info output, you can easily track if you have an error somewhere. It depends. If I crash here, I would know that, hey, something is wrong in loot table data, or if I have a warning or anything else, and I'm not gonna look anywhere else. That is why you sit back and write all those info loggings. Now, this is our provided mod template. I will delete this generated because right now I want to put it on GitHub and make a template zip file from this guy. In the next video, we will come back and put this project on the GitHub as it is, and we will see how we can make branches so that we can track each session as we move forward. You don't need to put branches, but if you download the repo and want to look into the different steps, you need to know how to look inside branches. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.